Welcome back to the 27. AMS2 continues to expand its collection of BMWs as the 1973 BMW 2002 Turbo was released this week. They took some extra time to get it ready, and from what I've read and seen, it shows. The 2002 Turbo has historical significance in that it was the first production car ever to feature a turbo. It increased the engine output by a whopping 40% over its naturally aspirated counterpart. According to the Cars of AMS2 website, it gets close to 200 horses, but it weighs only 1,000 kgs. It's the turbo that also defines the 2002's most famous driving characteristic, which is a powerful turbo lag. You hit the throttle, get nothing, then you get what was described by motor journalists at the time as a punch in the kidneys at 4,000 RPM. Unfortunately, its production was limited as it came out during the oil crisis of the 1970s, and cars like this were deemed irresponsible. But that doesn't mean we can't spend hours burning as much pixel gas as we can. The car looks stunning, from the riveted fender flares to the authentic reverse script on the front spoiler on this livery. So let's get out on track, but first take a quick peek at the setup screen. As expected, with a vintage car, I don't expect much as far as settings are concerned. So we have the normal brake pressure, brake bias, tire pressure, caster angles. You can adjust caster, camber, ride height, springs, and the slow speed dampers. No high speed damping on these types of cars. Anti-roll bars, tow, steering. So all of the basics here for these types of vehicles. So let's move in the drivetrain. I thought this was interesting. They give you some engine braking. That'll increase some off-throttle rotation if you need it on certain tracks. The gearing ratios are static. You basically can just turn this from a 5-shift into a 4-shift vehicle if you'd like. And then finally, for the differential, it appears that it's an LSD. They're giving you a clutch adjustment, no refining tools like preload or ramp, just the clutches. That should be enough, and generally it is. So we'll see how it goes on track, make adjustments as we see fit. Silverstone International is one of my 2 primary test tracks. I take cars here to get a majority of my data collected, a lot of big ticket items taken care of, and then I take them to Imola for refinement. And I decided to move this type of video over to these 2 test tracks as opposed to tooling around in some random track. I think all of us have seen Monza about 1,000 times by now, but this is taking a look at the BMW from the inside in VR. It looks great. It's a model example of 1970s German efficiency. So everything that you would expect. So let's get started here. I have already spun a few laps in this, made some setup adjustments, but this is strictly by default. Really corners really well just out of the box. The reason why I bring cars to Silverstone International is these 2 corners right here. I want to test to see how the car's loading and unloading, how it behaves, how the springs and the dampers are working. And this car handled that just like I would expect any other car to handle it first time out with defaults. It's a matter of refinement after that. And then the other reason is this corner here. You can really learn a lot about the lateral stiffness distribution of the cars here. Right there, the car is understeering a ton, but I think my corner entry speed was a little high, so that's not unusual. Okay, I'm being really patient here. Wow, this car is a lot of fun, man. It's one of the cars, one of the most fun cars on the edge that I've driven in AMS2. It's very forgiving. Okay, so if you get your corner entry speed right, you get that power oversteer that you're looking for. That wheel slip angle. But if you overcook the corners, you're going to get understeer. Just like there, kind of. That was a little bit better. Yeah, so you want to get a majority of your braking done, and then rotate the car, get on the power, and complete the rotation. Really forgiving on throttle. I'm thinking it needs a little bit of damper love. The springs seem okay. It's really hard to tell with these soft vintage vehicles. Oh, that's a big slide right there. I might want to do some lateral stiffness distribution, maybe soften the front, stiffen the rear a little bit on the springs or the ARBs. Damper transitions seem to be fine, but looking at the setup screen, it looks like it has the normal Ryza damping package, so there's room for improvement in my opinion. So let's take this to Imola and see how she handles that. The reason why I like to bring my cars to Imola because it's a really great overall track. Also, it's a great track to refine everything that you can't really learn at a place like Silverstone International. Silverstone International is more like, the springs and the lateral stiffness distribution. This track is for the whole package. This is for, curbs, dampers. You're putting the car through a lot of situations. So let's get started here. You also learn a lot about differentials at Imola. There's a couple of corners here, Aqua Minerale, Tosa, that you can learn how your differential's operating. And this kind of track responds to differential work really, really well because there's a couple of corners here that require just, really great traction. So far, driving this car, it's been just an absolute pleasure. It's really, really user-friendly, and I can't stress that enough. I feel like setups aren't really that big of a deal with this thing, and it's driving technique that really is all that matters. It really does what you expect it to do. When you brake, the nose dives in, you get more bite, or it understeers if you brake too hard. When you hit the power, the back end comes out like you would expect if you were looking for power oversteer. It does a lot of things very predictably, but it's also really, really forgiving as well. I really, really like this car and the way it drives out of the box. It's probably one of the best cars that I've driven in AMS2 that were released out of the box. Something that you can just feel like it fits like a glove as soon as you get in the car. And then as you get more laps under your belt, you can push it, and it just has more and more and more to give. Now there's certain peculiarities about this thing that I'm discovering here that you have to be aware of. It really does like to power oversteer on medium to low speed corners, so keep an eye out on that, but it's really controllable. I'm learning a lot of, just by driving it this way. You have to counter steer a lot. It looks great probably on replays as well. The other thing is it does not like to be, it's not a really great trail breaker. I feel like the brake pressure might be a little bit too far rearwards and a little too strong. So it'll be one of the things I'll be looking to adjust. Woo! But you can have a lot of fun with this car, just pushing it and throwing it around and seeing what she can do. Alright, so I'm also learning that the car likes a predictable... Oh, unlocking there. Bad gear shift. She likes a predictable corner entry speed. So if you enter a corner and you overcook it, she's going to understeer, and you may not be able to power oversteer after it, or out of it. But if you enter the corner at a decent speed and then you hit the throttle, you'll get that nice power oversteer that you can manage, and the car seems to respond well to that. See right there, oh, okay, I hit the brakes mid-corner while I wasn't complete with my rotation and the back end wanted to come out. So an adjustment I would make there is a little bit of brake pressure, maybe move the bias a little bit forward. ate a little bit too much curb there, but she handled it relatively well. This car is so forgiving, I have to say. The sound is great too. I can actually even hear the turbo spool. The one thing I am missing from this car is the famous turbo lag. I'm not getting any turbo lag whatsoever, and it's probably because the whole time I've been driving this, I've been above 4,000 RPMs. The turbo's supposed to kick in 4,000. So I'm not going below that, and so I'm not getting any turbo lag. So basically this feels just like a naturally aspirated car that just kicks ass. It looks like it is going way faster than it should, if you know what I mean. But this is ultimately just a fantastic car. I think this is one of those cars that leagues are going to love as a single series or single car series, maybe a one-off race. We're definitely going to feature this in the Thunderbolt Racing Series. I'll have a build video coming up within the next few days, and then after that, the usual content. We'll be waiting around for the end of November update, as well as Racing USA 2, which is a big deal. If you want any news and information about it, you know where to come. So until then, thanks for watching and take care.